Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Formula podcast. This is our Chapter 8 deep dive. So if you haven't listened to Chapter 8 yet or the rest of the book, you can find it on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube or Rumble. And you can also purchase the book, Driving Engagement, at your favorite online retailer. So we actually encourage you to purchase the book because it allows you to take notes. It allows you to highlight things. So even if you're listening, well, like I do, like when you're gardening or driving or working, you can remember the things you've learned by notating them in the book. And it's not long, it's easy, there's space to write. So good companion to the audio. So this week we're going to take a deep dive into Chapter 8, and we've actually kind of brought this up a few times as we've talked because this is all about employee responsibility. And we've said, okay, we're going to talk about that later. Well, later is today. So we talk about leadership a lot and the importance of different styles of leadership and how best to be a leader. But I firmly believe that as an employee, you bear a lot of responsibility for the climate at work.
You absolutely do. I mean, if you have a rotten attitude and you're expecting the leader to do everything, the leader has their own responsibilities that you hardly ever see. And so just if you think the leader is just there to kind of watch over and micromanage and do that, there's a lot of items that the leader does that you never see. And most of the time, they don't even tell you. And so you need to respect that. They are the ones that have built that organization so that you can have a job, but you're the one that's in that area, and you should be the one that is the professional in that area. And with the right education, you got hired to be there. You've got to be that working part of that area and not throw attitude, not be negative about it. Yeah. You need to have a positive attitude towards it and understand that is for you to define. Nobody else can control your circumstances or your attitude. It's you that allows you to accept that and to therefore have a reaction to it. But if you're always positive and upbeat about things, man, the creative juices just flow. And the opportunities just go wide open for you because you're not in like this tunnel vision and you're not being ungrateful. Being grateful and accepting your position there just opens your mind 100%. So think about that. Is it because you are reacting to somebody else that's creating that negative environment? You need to look at yourself first and what you are doing.
So I think a lot of times the first-time leader, the first time you get that peek behind the curtain between that leadership and employee side is very eye-opening because you suddenly see all those things that are happening on the backside. I remember as a first-level supervisor feeling a lot of times like I was just caught in the middle because I had the higher supervisors wanting everything from me. I had my employees wanting everything, wanting me to fix everything. And I was juggling and balancing the demands I was getting from my boss and all the requests and demands I was getting from my employees. And it's hard to know as a leader you don't want to bother your employees with everything you're doing, but at the same time, you want to be like, look, I'm working hard. I'm busy every day trying to solve these issues and doing this stuff. I'm not just sitting here doing nothing. But you don't want to burden them with that. So I just kind of did it silently. And then one day it blew up where an employee screwed up and blamed me because he said I didn't fix a problem. But what he didn't know, because I'd never told him, was that I had been basically shielding him, holding an umbrella over his head for months, shielding him from getting fired. And I was taking a lot of that blame, and he just thought I was doing nothing. And when it came down to it, really, he could have changed that situation 100% through his actions. Instead of complaining to me about things, actually coming to me with solutions, coming to me with a positive attitude would have been great. And one of the things that I learned then that I took to heart as an employee is you have to speak up. You can never expect change to happen if you've never said anything.
Yeah,
no
speak in the right way. Don't go to it defensively.
Right.
That's going to create the whole wrong environment.
Right. And if you go with this open mind that, hey, I know you're working hard, you're helping me out here, you're trying to make my life easier. I've thought I have a few ideas that could even help even more. What do you think of these? And present those. And I always learn, my parents taught me, never go with a problem, go with a problem and a solution.
Yeah, even if it's 3 or 4 different solutions, you're the expert in that area. You were hired for that area. You should be able to be confident about that area. And once again, not let your mind think about the negative aspects of it, because you are actually putting yourself in tunnel vision and your creativity is going nowhere.
Yeah. And I like the multiple potential solutions, because then you're not looking like you're telling your boss what to do. And you're also allowing them to evaluate, make the decision for themselves, which then there's more buy-in because they feel like they were part of this decision-making process.
And that's the awesome part about it. In change management, a leader can go in. I actually had a good friend that he went to a position and he told them before he got hired, look, I have a certain way that I like to do things. Everybody has different personalities. And just because it's not the way the leader does it, but their end product is still done and it's still an efficient matter, there's no reason that they shouldn't let him have that freedom to do that. Well, they spent 6 months in training him for that position. And at 7 months, he says, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to start doing this way. The company said, no, you're not. He's like, we discussed this before and you said that I would have this freedom. He left. He was very, very valuable person, very marketable to any position, and he could get a job anywhere. It just this specific thing that he did, and they would not let him have his freedom. No, this is how we found
but
it's
this
best.
is the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So trust your employees, but employees trust your instincts, but go to it in a positive way. You have to use positivity.
And there are points, and there have been times in my career where, for my personal integrity, I had to say something. And I knew other people who chose not to, and they were miserable. And saying something about a problem doesn't mean there's going to be a great solution, right?
Mm-mm.
You can look at tons of examples of whistleblowers and other things where it doesn't work out well for them. But who has to look in the mirror at you every day? It's you. So you have to be able to look in the mirror and say, I have the integrity to stand by what I said and what I did, and I did it in the proper way, a professional, not an angry or defensive way.
Yeah, because should there really be anger in a work environment? Sometimes you do get disappointed and you can, but it's a choice, and it's your choice to take that and to adapt to it or to react to the situation. I love to be proactive as much as you can. Sometimes you have to be reactive, but how you react is a big difference. Sometimes you just, as I worked in corrections, this is already a hostile work environment because you are working with individuals that have been proven guilty, therefore sentenced. Well, I had a pretty good opinion of them because I felt they were human beings. But my leadership, no, they're hardened criminals. Yes, they made a mistake. I believe that they did. But as long as they don't do something to me, I'm not going to hold their past against them. But the leaders would also hold things against me as an employee, and the certain organization that I worked for, they're still having problems that they're, I think, over 200 employees short. I've actually gone to them and said, can I just please help you with leadership? And they're not open to it at all. Why should you create a hostile work environment when you're already in a hostile work environment?
Yeah.
There's no reason.
I was in a situation once where I got to the point where I felt I had to say something. It was bad for me, but I'd kind of created my own little shell where I was like, I can survive this. It's only for a limited time. But there were other people in the office who I could see their mental health and their physical health being just going downhill because of this hostile work environment, this particular manager. So I got together with a group of some of the others who had more tenure, and we met with his supervisor to say, look, these are the things, this is not good. This office is going to implode, this department and our team. And their response was, okay, thanks for sharing. And that was it. Nothing ever happened. And in fact, I believe they made mention of it to my manager because it became even more hostile after that, which is hard to do. I knew that could have been one of the potential outcomes. But do I regret doing that? No, even though it made my life harder, because I needed to speak up. And we did it in a professional way. We set up a meeting, we sat down at a table, and we talked through these issues. We didn't yell, we didn't scream, and nothing came of it. But I still did the right thing. And I can look at myself in the mirror in the morning knowing I did the right thing, even if those above me didn't. And that's important for your self-respect and just to be able to continue in your career.
Yep. And there's a right way to discuss problems in the work environment, and there's a wrong way. If you go at them in attack mode, what's that going to put your boss in a defensive mode?
Yeah.
Therefore, creativity is once again gone. But if you go to them with solutions and say, hey, I've really thought about this, and hopefully your leader's reactions will be good and positive as you go to them and say, I've thought about this, and this would really help our environment to be more effective and productive. Use the right words to really help them. One of our greatest goals is to have people not just be numbers in the business environment, but actually be treated as people. So many people think, oh, we should blame everything on the different generations and this and that. It really boils down to treat people as individuals, not numbers.
Yeah.
And so
there's a video right now kind of going viral. A comedian was talking about making fun of Gen Z. They can't do this. They can't do that. Basically, if they ever take over the world, we could easily take it back because we just have to write our plans out in cursive because they can't read cursive. Right? It was a comedian. It was a joke. Yeah. But the response to it was, and I've seen a bunch of people respond to it, and kind of like the big one that hit home was, well, that's because nobody ever taught us. So there's responsibility on both sides. You Absolutely. Can't make fun of someone for not knowing how to read cursive if you never taught them cursive.
Yeah. Is cursive even taught in the school system?
Some schools it, some schools not, but it's that example.
Typed.
There's this symbiotic relationship between the employees and the leadership that has to happen. And when that's clicking, that's when a company becomes really productive.
And that's why we focus on, for one, organization, another, communication, the right communication. If you go into a person that's a different, say I went to a baby boomer and I said, this is how the things work in technology now. Well, that person doesn't like technology. What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to help them to understand why technology is helpful and get them to think it's their idea to help them with efficiency. I talk to a lot of people in the car world. They're like, I could work on gas engines all the time. These computerized ones are so much difficult. Actually, they're easier because you have a computer that you can hook up to the computer and you can talk.
What's wrong?
And you have all sorts of sensors that tell you. I mean, it's actually easier. If I wanted to do an engine on an old car compared to a new one, I'd do the new one because all I have to do is plug in a lot of different sensors. The old one, I have to time it. I have to adjust the carburetor. I have to do all this other stuff. And it's like, I'd rather just plug it in and let the computer do its job. And so that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But there's a whole different way to lead in every generation. And as employees, realize that the older generations or even the younger ones are different and they speak differently. Be patient. We're all human beings. We really should take care of each other more and not get so defensive and not react so adversely that people get offended. And some people quit getting offended.
Yeah. And when work's bad, like you need to talk about it. Like you can't bottle it in. But the problem with that is when employees start talking negatively to each other about work, it's a virus. It festers and it grows and it spreads. And it's kind of like a bad apple in an apple bushel that spreads throughout the rest of the team or the company. And you don't want to be the person that spreads that bad attitude and that low morale. So you want to be the one who thinks of a good solution and takes that solution to your boss. And, here's a secret from the leadership side to all the employees. It's really difficult as a leader to admit you're wrong or to admit you don't know how to fix a problem. And unfortunately, and something we try to fix is leaders don't have the humility to admit they don't know or they made a mistake. And so they'd rather hit their head against a solid brick wall instead of turning left and going through the doorway. And so that is a difficulty you have to face.
Absolutely. And it still boils down to communication. Really does, because I tell my employees that I'm wrong in some instances all the time. There's no reason that I have to be right. I'm a human being. We all make mistakes. We all absolutely do. But it's the ones in leadership you really shouldn't have much pride, because you have a lot of employees that are doing the work, the daily work. You're just there to create the right environment for them to work. And on the employee side, you have to communicate what your issues are in an easy manner that doesn't get the whole place defensive and out of control. That's actually a good thing to start thinking about. It takes so much more effort to be a positive person in a negative environment, but the outcome is outstanding. And that's where you have to come in and just try to be the bigger person as far as not going to that level and being positive about it. Positive psychology is something that we are getting hit a lot in our next book that we're doing, and to be around. I walk into a room and I feel I'm a pretty positive person. I work on it a lot. Somebody can be angry and I just have to walk in the room and it's almost like it detunes it, because I don't want to get angry. I don't want to argue with somebody. I don't like arguing. I don't like hate and anger. I really don't. It shuts me right down. But I usually can talk people out of it.
And you can't do the right thing expecting a reward, right? You can't do it because that'll get you a bonus or a promotion or employee of the month. Because a lot of times, not only is there no reward, but there might be some negative feedback to start with. You have to do it because you personally believe in doing the right thing. And because it's genuine and you want to make things better and you want to help the people around you. And when that becomes your motivation, your shift is you're doing it because you know it's the right thing, and it's an internal motivation. It becomes a lot easier to do the right thing because you're not expecting any return off of that. You're doing it because you know that's what you need to do.
And it'll actually be seen that if you are having something expected. When I was, I haven't told this story much, but when I was a teenager, I shouldn't have even been there, but at this Christmas tree farm, I was off school. And I went there and I was like, hey, can I help people get Christmas trees just for tips? And they're like, sure. So my way of telling people how I got paid is I would make sure to tell them, hey, I just work off tips. And I don't know how else to communicate. That's how I got paid. And I made a little bit of money. I didn't make anything outstanding, but I loved being around the people and just helping them do it. That was almost more of a reward than getting paid. Because really, I didn't need money at 14, 15 years old as much as I thought I did. I just wanted to go and work. But it was really the customer service that I was after and trying to help them. And when I would see their face, when I'd say, yeah, I actually just get paid in tips, they would change their facial features and I'd be going, that doesn't sound right. And I actually had somebody do that to me the other day. I'm like, they don't, have a sign or something somewhere, but I don't like to be just flat out told that. And so do good customer service and people reward. That's what we do with waitresses all the time.
Yeah. I believe that employees, when you accept a position, you are accepting responsibility for your position. You're not just working. It's not just for the dollar. You are accepting a responsibility to fulfill whatever role you're being hired to fulfill, which means you have a responsibility to say when something's wrong or to come up with solutions to make it better and more efficient. The movie Office Space, it's a hilarious movie about, corporate, just the corporate world, right? So they noticed there's a glitch and they set the program so that any percentage of change that doesn't add up goes into their bank account, and then it compounded and multiplied. and they ended up making all this money, and then they freak out. The movie's hilarious. What they should have done was reported the glitch and say, look, we found an issue that's costing you money, and here's a way to fix it. Wouldn't have made for a funny movie that way. But that's, as an employee, that was their responsibility to do. Instead, they took advantage of it, and hilarity ensued. But that just little thing, and it was fractions of a penny at a time, but it compounded into a massive amount of money.
So yeah, the basics about this chapter is employees, you have a responsibility to help the environment, the work environment, to be structured well, to be organized, and to communicate correctly. This will help so many issues as long as people take it in the right way. I've told the story before about being told that I had psychological issues as working in a team because I didn't feel it was right. All I was trying to do is communicate to my sales manager that I was having a hard time with the other team members because they were lazy. They didn't want to do the things that I need to do. I wanted to work, and I showed him how I worked, and the other people just didn't want to, but he was so just dead set on me working in a team selling environment without splitting the commissions. I didn't understand that, and that's why I did get upset eventually and say, that's not right. Because I love working with teams. That was the same organization that the secretary just said that I was just a kind person because I like to help other people out in the environment. So there's two contrasting things. One saw that I was very kind, and one saw that I couldn't work into a team, but yet I had both sides. I love working with teams, and I love seeing people's smiles on their faces. I help waitresses and everything as I get food to just help them to feel better about themselves and just simply tell them that they're doing a good job. I love to help people thrive in the environment, the workplace environment.
Yeah. So take your job seriously. Just like when I got a job as a student carpenter in college, I showed up for the first day and they didn't have anything for me to do. It was the first day. So what did I do? I picked up a broom and started cleaning the shop because I was getting paid.
Yeah.
So take that responsibility as an employee and know that your leader can't be effective if the leader's employees are not doing their job and not being effective. You have a responsibility to the culture of your team and your company just as much as a leader does. And you actually have a lot of power and say and influence in the attitude and the positivity that you can find in the workplace. So work with gratitude, always have gratitude in your heart, be positive, be professional, be kind, and you'll actually enjoy going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Change your mindset because your mindset means everything in the workplace. If you have a negative mindset going in, guess what? You're going to get negativity. If you have a positive one, you will receive positive motion or positive effect. And it does take more effort to be positive, but the outcome is well worth the reward.
Yeah. All right, so that was our deep dive into Chapter 8. Check out the book Driving Engagement by Marcus Williams and Eric Lichty, or actually Eric Lichty and Marcus Williams, and get your copy of the book. If you haven't yet, subscribe wherever you're watching or listening so that you're notified when the next episode comes out, which will be our audiobook reading of Chapter 9. Have a great one.
Thank you.